The Movie Preview Critic. Informing and entertaining your movie world.
Part of the twist here that works, but yet it doesn't work, is that it's very much like The Sixth Sense, where now you have to go back and watch the movie and say, okay, so he was blind the whole time, just like Bruce Willis was dead. Did it make sense, or are they just pulling something out of their ass? And there are some nice little cues where when Eli wakes up, he always goes to the window and he turns his head a little bit and he can feel the sun on him. He always has the glasses on, or he closes his eyes. And that's a little cue looking back in hindsight that, okay, he was blind, and that's how he feels that it's time to wake up. But in some aspects it doesn't work, namely in that he's a kung fu master, and he knows how to use swords and guns like it's nobody's business. Who knows where he got the training? There are these close-ups of him, and you can kind of see this necklace, like a beaded necklace, as if he was in the army or the Marines, and at the end of that necklace should be like some dog tags. But then there's a shot of a Kmart badge, and it says, "Hello, my name is Eli." And that makes you think, okay, what, he was a clerk at Kmart? And now he's kind of like Ash from the Evil Dead trilogy, where he was S-smart, and when he ran into these demons, he was able to turn into this awesome fighter. How does that work? You go with it while it's happening. You're like, okay, wow, this guy's pretty interesting. But once you find out he's blind the whole time, it's like, okay, how was he able to do that? And that leads back into, well, okay, God chose him and gave him all these abilities. It ruins the impact of what's happened before, because now you have to just be like, okay, everything that happened before is changed. Do I buy it? And you're rethinking all the scenes that he was in earlier, takes you out of the last moments of the movie. And that's always one of the catch-22s of having a twist ending, is that if it doesn't line up, people are going to be out of the climax and resolution, which is one of the most important elements of the movie. In the end, it gets a little bit over the top with the symbolism, which I respect. I'm glad. I'd rather that it tried to do it and it didn't do it exactly right than it just tried to stay away from it, where he puts on the white outfit and he's this holy figure now, and he's verbally communicating the Bible to the Malcolm McDowell character. It had the right intention, it just was, the calibration was a little bit off, but for the most part I really respect that it tried to do that. Then the Mila Kunis character's payoff, her resolution doesn't really work, where she decides, okay, I've had this journey with Eli, but I really haven't learned anything. We don't see her start to change her ways, and that's because she isn't truly involved in the current society. She's played as this kind of virginal character who's been untouched by this Mad Max cold, cruel world. Somehow she's been able to survive, become part of this town where Gary Oldman is dating her mother, and yet there's this scene where when Eli first arrived, Gary Oldman says, we're going to use Solara to tempt him. She's going to sleep with him and twist his morals so he'll want to stay with us. And when she gets in there, of course she doesn't, because Eli sticks to his beliefs and doesn't quote-unquote corrupt her. She should have been corrupted a long time ago. She should be a damaged and bruised soul, physically, mentally, spiritually. She should represent the wasteland, that she's just totally been drained of this, but within her maybe is like a little flame. It's still alive, and Eli has to come and kind of stoke it with his beliefs, with what's in the book that he's carrying. And it would have been great to see a transformation of her a little bit more. Make her more of a derelict. Maybe she's offering herself to him all the time because that's how she's survived up to this point. She's been reduced to the most basic elements of survival, and she's had to use that to get where she is. Make her journey a little more powerful, because at the end, she basically straps on Eli's outfit, has got the gun and the sword, and she goes back out into the cold world, leaving the safety of Alcatraz. And you really want to laugh. You're just like, I don't believe that. That's even more unbelievable than Eli being blind the whole time and doing all these great karate moves and everything. I don't believe the Solara Mila Kunis characters change one bit. Make it more powerful. Let us understand the change that happened within her. Yeah, she says, I can't stay here, I have to go, something's calling me. Okay, well, let us see that transformation, hear it at least, talk about it. What does it mean? Why wasn't there that final scene? As Eli's dying, why doesn't she have a final conversation with him? We cut from Eli being on the couch like Edgar Casey in his trance, just talking about his visions and everything that's in his head, to a stone on the ground, and Solara is touching it, and it just says Eli, he's died. We need to have that final connection between these two characters. She has been his window character, his confession cam. We need to have that relationship come to a close. It's like having a best friend in grammar school and high school, and you go off to separate colleges. What's that final hangout, that final moment of, okay, we'll talk in the future, but for right now, we're going our separate ways. You need to have that moment. We didn't have the closure of the window character and the main character. We have a pretty solid Gary Oldman resolution where, again, it's great and ironic how he talks about having faith and he knows what's in that book, but he can't read it, he can't use it, and he's wasted the resources of his town. He's wasted all of his henchmen. They all died because they were fighting to get this book from Eli, and the town is falling in on itself. Everyone's resorting to just looting and taking what they can get because they're going for themselves and not the bigger picture. They're not trying to form a stable society. They're just following their impulses. And Gary Oldman has to watch as it's destroyed. And he sowed what he reaped, and it's a representation of what happened before the Flash. People in power trying to use the power of religion to control everyone. These less than ambitious intentions lead to confusion within each of us. We don't gel as a society, and this conflict sprouts up to the ultimate, most dramatic representation, which is the apocalypse. So again, it happens to Gary Oldman in his would-be society. Overall, it's a decently satisfying resolution for him. Overall, the purpose of an apocalyptic story is to explore what we have, why we should cherish it, and what could happen if we lose it, versus just great visuals and how things would look, and okay, wouldn't it be cool to see 100 ruined cars that are on fire on a highway? Yeah, great, but let's have that battle within each of us. Eli succeeds on a lot of levels. It has really nice intentions in terms of having faith, but the characters aren't developed enough with their point of views, what they represent, and in the end, it looks cool because it's filmed in a great way. It has very much like this Tony Scott sort of bleached out world, jittery camera at times. The camera works really amazing. There's some great, really long takes, especially during like a machine gun battle in the middle, and the opening shot, which is beautiful. It looks like it's something out of 300, or the opening sequence of Gladiator, where the ash from the torches and the flaming arrows are raining over everyone. That opening shot feels like it's done more for the cool imagery than it is how does this add to the story. You could have done without that and just introduced Eli in a different kind of way. I would recommend seeing it on the big screen, but only as a matinee, because it fails to emotionally connect and to address the inner apocalypse that would happen when society falls apart. And how do you exactly get it back? I love that it's based around religion, a topic that a lot of films don't address, and this is obviously a perfect one because where else do you hear all the apocalyptic talk than in the Book of Revelation? So it's really a perfect platform for that to be explored, but in some ways it doesn't have the 100% courage to address it all, mainly because the characters don't battle passionately for it. I wish the characters would have been a little more aggressive in their point of view in terms of the world before, the world now, and how do you reform a society, and here's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and especially the Eli-Solera relationship. I wish some extra meat would have been added to that. It really would have been satisfying in the end, and you would not laugh when she takes over and becomes the new ass kicker. It's very much like Sarah Connor becoming like Kyle Reese at the end of the first Terminator. You could absolutely draw a parallel in terms of that relationship. The thing is, in Terminator, Kyle Reese is not afraid to talk about what happened in the past, what he sees now, and what Sarah needs to do in order to prepare for what's going on and how she needs to change. So well done. And you believe Sarah Connor's journey in the first Terminator. Here, it's really forced, like, okay, you knew what the end would be. You knew what she should look like at the end, but you didn't know how to make her feel it and us feel it as a result. And it really fails in those terms. So when you have a theme, if you want to address an idea in a movie, it really rests on the main character and their window character, their confession cam character, because they're the ones who talk about how they feel about things. And they're the ones that transform each other. The conflict forces the characters to go within themselves and bring up their beliefs in order to fight and survive. But when they talk to each other, that's when the transformation occurs. And that's what we needed to see more of. So it's that relationship that failed, and that's why at the end we feel a little bit unsatisfied. The movie looks great. The Hughes brothers know what they're doing behind the camera. Sometimes it feels a little bit forced with these shots of obviously digitized gray sky in the background. But overall, the look of the film is really nice. The performances, especially from Gary Oldman and Denzel Washington, very strong. Everyone else, the characters aren't as developed, so they don't really have a lot to work with. And if you're in the mood to see a movie like this, I would recommend seeing it as a matinee, especially if you'd like post-apocalyptic films, are a Denzel Washington fan, love the Hughes brothers. Overall, I would say this is a sign of movie hope. It does enough things right. It really does try to bring up some bigger issues, and it has some balls, so I respect it for that. And the movie about the apocalypse is a film against the Moviepocalypse, so it's absolutely a sign of movie hope. Thanks for hanging out for the Book of Eli movie review. Let me know what you think. Please leave some comments in the section below, and let's discuss. Until next time, choose your movies wisely, because StoryCorp gives us more of what we pay for, and as always,
Long live good movies!